Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon. How are y'all doing today?
Hey,
Hi,
kiddo.
hi,
Doing
Dr.
good. Mom, how are
How's
you?
y'all day?
Great, great, great.
Pretty good. It's cold out here, so I got some hot chocolate.
I just ran by the
Oh,
Starbucks and just got some stuff.
Cold as that. Ooh, bless you.
thank you.
Dapping and everything, but
What's the weather like out there, Mom?
Like 48, 45. It's been raining all day long. It's cold.
Well,
Yeah, it's been
48 is not
there,
too bad.
too.
At least it's not freezing yet.
got 37 out here last night, and that's I think
37.
yeah had the nerve, the bravery,
Full grown nerve.
the
Right.
courage, the courage. I think it's maybe 57 or 60 now, comfortable. And
Yeah. We had that a couple days ago, and we were like, ooh, it's 61 out there.
that's
I
okay.
was driving around with the tops down and stuff.
I know we had a little taste of spring too. It was like 80 for 2 days last week. It was just a little sprinkles. Well, it's back to 60 now, but it was nice.
Yeah, I'm ready for spring.
Yeah, me too. So today we're focusing on Black feminist icons. Um, One of my favorite Black feminist icons is Audrey Lorde. I read her in one of my first feminist classes that I took at UCSC. Um, Angela Davis is also one of my favorite feminist icons, Black feminist icons. She is or was a professor at UCSC where I go to school, but sometimes she comes back and she does talks and panels and things like that. And currently, I'm reading Eloquent Rage by Brittany Cooper, which is a Black feminist novel that was gifted to me by my mother, and I'm really enjoying it so far.
Oh, good.
I thought you
Yeah,
would.
yeah, it's really good. Um, I think I really started getting into Black feminism in college, like I said, with my first feminist class that I took. But would y'all, one, consider yourself feminist? And just before we get into honoring some of the icons, and like what has been your journey with feminism, or what are your thoughts regarding
Define
feminism?
feminist.
Ooh. You're a feminist, Mom?
No, I said defined it. Define
Define
it.
it. Yeah, like give us the true definition of feminist. Like literally, like
Um, yeah, I can look up the actual definition, but I think most people are familiar with feminism just being like equality between
the
men and
sexes.
women as far as like
Mhm.
health, wages, um, equal opportunity in the professional world, etc.
Mhm.
Um, so let's see.
Well, in that definition or in that range of things, yes, I guess I would be a feminist. I'm not much on titles, but those are things that human beings would want. So I don't know why I would have to be a feminist, be titled a feminist.
Why a title needs to be
Yeah, why
associated with that.
yeah, there have to be a title associated with those things because those are things that everybody would like to have.
Mhm.
Not necessarily, but I mean, you would hope, like given that they are just basic rights and basic
Right,
equality between the sexes, you would hope that most people would want that. But
Oh yeah,
misogyny
I see what you mean. Yeah.
misogyny is an issue, and we'll get into that later. Of course, misogyny, sexism, the way in which women are treated in the workplace, their safety, just in general terms, walking around, um, the idea that women can't walk alone at night, of course, like this is just the surface of feminism, but feminism, as defined by Google, which comes from Oxford Languages, the definitions come from Oxford Languages.
Oxford.
The definition is the advocacy of women's rights on the basis of the equality of the sexes.
okay,
Yeah, I'm a feminist then.
okay, yeah. With those definitions, I'm a feminist, but I'm not gonna I use that title properly. Because I don't like titles on anything, so I
Mhm.
probably won't say you know, I'm a feminist. I'm just a person for human rights.
Right.
Yeah, rights.
Yeah, I get that, Mom. Yeah. And I've seen people argue about what it means to be a feminist, like one woman telling another woman, like, you know, you claim to be a feminist, you're not a feminist. It's yeah, you know, and it's like, I guess to me, it's kind of like a religion. So not that feminism is a religion, but I mean that like in my mind's eye, like if you do everything, does everybody do everything the way the Bible says if they're a Christian? If you're
Right.
Muslim, the same. So you can't just say, oh, I'm a Muslim, but then, you know, you drink sparkling rosé every now and again, or you cuss every now and again, or what, are you still putting bacon in your Cobb salad? You know, you can't say that. So with that definition, yeah, that definition, yes, I would say that I am a feminist. But like Mom said, that's not gonna be in my bio.
Right, right. And I have seen women who say they're feminists that go to the extreme where they don't accept chivalry from men. And I like that type of stuff. You know, I think that would be on the extreme. I want a man to open up my door. I want them to help me with my jacket. And that's not on all the time, but if that's my husband or my boyfriend or my partner or something like that, I want to see I want those things done. I want them to carry the heavy load, the groceries or whatever. I want those little niceties. And I have seen people that go to the extreme when they almost, you don't have to open my door. I got arms. I can open up my own door. You know, that kind of stuff. I've seen the extreme. Yeah, that's extreme. I realize that. So there has to be a balance in that. But I just, like you said, daughter, I wouldn't put it in my bio. But under the definition that you gave us, yes, then I would be a feminist.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I don't struggle with titling myself as a feminist as much. I think my only quarrel with identifying as a feminist is, as we talk about Black feminism, is mainstream feminism that has attached itself to white feminism, which is not necessarily the same thing as women of color feminism or Black feminism or womanism, and all those different titles that Black feminists have adopted to kind of steer away from where feminism has been going, in its waves for the past few decades and things like that. So I think I understand not wanting to necessarily tack on that label.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd like to start with talking about one of my favorite Black feminists, and that is Audrey Lorde. One of her most famous books is Sister Outsider. I read that, like I was saying, in my first feminist class, and it really just opened my eyes and opened my mind because she just has a way with words. Like when I think of my two favorite authors, I think of Audrey Lorde and James Baldwin, because the way in which they can articulate things in a manner that like you may have already thought of, but you just couldn't put a title to it, you couldn't put a name to it, or you just couldn't quite like just word that yourself. So they really just put like a name to the feelings that we often feel, and just explain everyday encounters that Black women and Black people experience, especially queer Black women, which a lot of Black feminists, one of the most well-known Black feminists are usually lesbians or bisexual.
I said, is that right? Okay.
Yeah, actually in this book called Eloquent Rage by Brittany Cooper, she talks about how feminism or Black feminism is inherently queer.
Okay.
Yeah, I couldn't articulate it because it's not my own like thought, but like the way she talks about it in the book like makes a lot of sense. So are y'all familiar with Audrey Lorde or Sister Outsider or anything like that?
I'm not familiar with her.
No, I mean, I've heard of Audrey Lorde, but you know what, to be honest, I was like, I thought that was a white woman. That name, I don't know. Can you show me a picture? Should I look her up?
Yeah, I was gonna say, can I share a screen?
Yeah.
And I can
Yeah, let me,
Picture of Audrey Lorde.
there you go.
Let me open up a new tab. Business on out there.
Yeah, I totally thought that was like a fashion person from back in the day. I didn't know who, I don't know who that is.
Audrey Lorde.
Huh? No,
I
not
don't even
familiar.
know if I've ever heard her name before. Okay, Audrey.
Oh no, I don't know who this is.
Me either.
Yeah, Audrey Lorde is amazing. I would highly recommend her book, Sister Outsider. Really awesome. Great,
Sister
great
Outsider.
piece of feminism.
Write that down. Sister Outsider.
Yeah, I like that title too. That's intriguing.
And then one of my favorite quotes from her is self-care is a radical act of resistance. Okay, here we go. Caring for myself is not self-indulgence. It is self-preservation, and that is an act of political warfare. Love that quote. That's one of my favorite quotes from her, and I think about this quote often when I like feel guilty for wanting to take a break or take a rest, because this can be another conversation for another time. But Black feminism, especially Angela Davis, as a Black feminist, often talks about like capitalism and the role that it plays with racism and how it affects Black people, and basically how capitalism is just not an effective political economy for us to thrive in, even outside of just Black people. Just like if you're not a part of the 1%, then capitalism is not conducive to your success or your well-being. And so I often think of that Audrey Lorde quote whenever I'm getting beat down by the man, and I just and I just need to take a rest.
Not beat down by the man.
Yeah, we don't want to get that visual. I'm wondering what space she was in, because it seems to me that she took self-care way to another level. And when she said self-care, what was she referring to? Because self-care, I mean, taking care of yourself, having a massage, having some quiet time and stuff like that. She took it to a political
warfare.
Yeah, political warfare. I don't get that. That's like, to me, that's something that I know a lot of women don't do that on a regular basis as they should care for themselves, but self-care seems to me is just something that you should do.
Yeah, she's the one probably be like, don't open my door, I got arms. Don't open right? With that statement,
my door, I got what?
With that quote, she sounds like what you described, like people taking it to the extreme, being like, don't open my door, I have arms,
No, I would not categorize that as an extremist quote whatsoever. Especially as I was just like kind of talking about capitalism. And like I said, that can be a conversation for another time, because learning more about the like political economic system that we exist in is so much deeper than just free markets. It's literally about commodifying human labor to the point where the 1% are those who own the means of production. They wring out every last bit of labor that they can get from us. That's just how capitalism functions. Maybe you don't necessarily agree with that idea, but if you are, I wouldn't say anti-capitalism, but if you have your suspicions again about capitalism, and you maybe believe that the current society in which we function when it comes to like, what are we doing, 48-hour work weeks, 5 days a week, may not, 9 to 5s may not be the best mode of production for people. It is as far as the markets and developing products and maybe research and development and innovation. But when it comes to those who are actually not a part of the upper class, I mean, we're being worked to death. People are being stressed to death. People are, you know what I mean? People are like developing all of these ailments because and through the work that they do. So I think Audrey Lorde in this quote is really emphasized. I think this is like an anti-capitalist quote. I don't think this is just a quote about self-care. I think this is a quote going against the current political economy that we function in.
Oh, that's why I said that's either to the extreme or she's talking about something else.
Yeah.
And so
Well,
when you,
yeah.
yeah, and when you break it down like that, that makes a lot of sense. That
Yeah.
quote makes 100% sense. And being the future economist that you are, you know, the way that you get to have a full grasp on, you know, capitalism, fair markets, free and fair market. Yeah, I could tell that's like, hey, that's my jam. I know what I'm talking about. So to see how that intertwines, but yeah, I
That's
think
why I said she must have been coming from a different space. Because to me, just general self-care is something that we
they're scheduling a massage every month.
yeah, they schedule a massage, a facial, some quiet time, some meditation, some
Soaking your feet.
some time, you know, some stuff like that to get good with Jesus, that kind of stuff. That's that I just thought, you know, was self-care. But when you get deep like that, granddaughter getting ready to graduate, I can understand. Educate your Grammy.
Right. And mom, you know, I'm a lifelong learner. I'm never at a point to be like, I don't need to know that, or I'm not willing to receive it. I receive it.
Yes. And there's never age. I always tell people there's never age when you can sit down and say, whew, I know everything.
Right.
No, that's right. That's a good one.
Yep. I think the thing, okay, so we've talked about Audrey Lorde. I'd like to talk about Brittany Cooper now.
Okay.
In this book, Eloquent Rage. I haven't finished it yet. So, you know, I'm just gonna be transparent there. But what I have read well, first let me talk about why you gave me a few books for Christmas, Mom. But the reason that I wanted to read this one first, or the reason that this one really stuck out to me, is because I feel like as Black women, we all have rage. We can't deny that. Um, the manner in which we navigate that rage and how we present that rage to the rest of the world obviously differs. But I think just being, as Malcolm X describes, the most mistreated human beings in America, possibly even the world, of course we're going to have a little bit of rage. Of course we're going to be upset. And that kind of goes into the angry Black woman stereotype. You know, that's something else to dissect, but there is truth in Black women being upset and being mad. And so this book really spoke out to me because just the way that it was worded, eloquent rage. And I had actually just taken a class last quarter about rage, and it was about race. And so I was like, okay, this is really interesting. And I feel like I feel like I have a lot of rage that manifests in my day-to-day life. And so it's important as Black women that we don't go through those stages of denial, right? Where we go through, where we deny it and then we get upset about it. No, I think it's best that we just accept it. Like that, 99.9% of us have rage that needs to be dealt with. Or else it will continue to manifest in our personal relationships, and our partnerships, and our relationships with ourselves. So before I talk a little bit about the book, how do y'all feel about that title, Eloquent Rage? And do you feel that you deal with rage and being angry as a Black woman in America?
I like the title of the book. I think it's appropriately named, the rage that Black women have. I think that book is appropriate because our rage, even though rage itself in general is not eloquent, but the rage we have is eloquent because of who we are and why we have it. So I like the title of the book. Yeah, I like the title of the book. And yes, I'm almost sure I do have rage. Having seen so much different things, the systemic racism and, all that type of stuff. So yes, I do have some interrage. And over the last few years is when I realized that so much of it came out over the last few years. So much so that I thought I was getting ready to file a claim for PTSD. So that, because it was bothering me so bad. And the thing about that, the reason I said PTSD is because there was not a lot that I could even do about it. It was like blatant racism, blatant, I'm going to do what I want to do to you, Black people, and there's nobody that's going to stop me from doing it. And so who do you go to when the people that you usually go to for protection are the ones that's causing the issues? So yes, you have that rage, and sometimes letting that rage out is the only relief that you have. So I had even gone to the point to go to therapy, but of course it's hard to find Black therapists. So I interviewed a non-Black, non-person of color, but I asked her specifically, was she gonna be okay working with a Black woman? Because I didn't want to, have any issues. She asked me the wrong question, or she asked me something.
Well, what was she supposed to say? Oh no.
Well, I mean, I would have looked at her body language. She probably would have reacted before she answered.
Right.
I could have told her that. Where's your what?
Oh, see me.
I went to $5 and got them some drinks.
$5.
Yeah, and got them some
chocolate.
Some hot chocolate and some vanilla drink, and they have all kinds of drinks down there for the kids if you just tell them no caffeine. So one of them couldn't find there, so that was it. They don't care whether I'm in here making $1 million. They gonna interrupt me. The door was closed.
That's my $1 million Grammy.
The door was closed. But anyway, yeah, I probably would have been able, because her reaction to that question would have shown before she verbalized the answer.
Right.
So I would have known that, but I stopped going to her. She was okay. I stopped going anyway. I did go a couple of times, but I stopped going. I'm like, this is not happening. So let me do something else. Let me take a meditation and affirmations. And
right. Listen to your Calm app or something.
More prayers and stuff like that, So that did help.
So I think that the title sounds like, I thought it was catchy, and I read a little bit. I got the synopsis, and I thought, this is straight up Kennedy. She needs to read this book. I do think that you're a feminist, and I thought that this would be a really good book for you to read too. I take eloquent rage as, you had a different definition, Mom, but I took it as, the way you articulate your rage outwardly. You're just doing it eloquently enough to where you're not seen as angry Black woman.
Right.
But you're also getting your point across, and you're moving mountains with that rage, or at least chipping away at them so that they will, come tumbling down or whatnot. Rage, we had a conversation at home about outrage. So when you say rage, and we totally got into like, what is the real definition of this? And what do you mean by outrage? I'm like, no, I'm talking about outward rage, but then I think there's also this rage, this internal rage that calls us to have PTSD and to cause us to want to get counseling and stuff, because I did too, Mom. And I went to counseling, and this is going to piss me off again. It's been a year since, George Floyd died, almost a year. And just with everything going on, I was outraged. Yeah. Not surprised, but outraged. So much so that I was like, I need to get some counseling. I'm pissed around here. I'm really mad on a regular basis. I couldn't focus on anything like work or nothing. I couldn't focus. So I did get counseling. And then that counselor was like, I told you about this a few weeks ago, and they finally got it together. So there was this group therapy. And she was like, well, do you want to try that? It's for people it's like a lot of people calling for counseling these days, and they're having the same they're saying the same thing. So
Yeah.
we thought that we should put something together for group therapy. And I went in there and it was one Black guy and like 5 or 6 other Black women. And it was weekly. So we might have the regular 5 people every week. And then it'd be like a different person or whatever, nobody was consistent except for like 5 of us. And it was so helpful to just be pissed and mad and say what you're pissed about and somebody get it, and not have to hold that shit in and be like, at work or whatever, like you're pissed at work and then you got a meeting.
Right. Yeah.
And I sit right here every day at work and my TV's right up there and it's on mute, but it's like MSNBC is showing me everything going on. I know what's going on. And I might look up and see a scroll, something done happened. No, not again, not charged. Oh, this person not charged, and then, I got a meeting and it's my meeting. So I'm running the meeting or,
Right.
Or I have to be engaged. If it's like a colleagues meeting, it requires, something from me and I can't just sit there and tune out. So that's rage to me. Like there's a level of that rage, but the rage drives me. I will say that it drives me.
Yeah.
Like I'm not gonna like roll over, and be like, we're just mad. We just, Black people just, got it hard and then just roll over and be like, that's the way it's gonna be.
Right.
It might be like that for me, my generation, but damn it, I'm gonna make it better for my kids and their kids. And the next thing I'm gonna do what I can do, whether I see it or not.
Exactly.
Yeah. I think I'm getting outraged right now.
Some of your elegant rage is surfacing.
Right. My eloquent rage. I'm better. I'm a little better.
Yeah. I think both of you mentioned like that PTSD aspect, and there is, I have the book and I forgot who actually wrote. I could probably look it up right now because I want to give this person credit. But have y'all heard of that book, Post-Traumatic Slave Syndrome?
Yes.
Post-traumatic slave syndrome.
Oh my God, it's deep.
Not
Not only
reading to do.
you writing it down.
I sure am.
Joy DeGruy?
Yes, or DeGraw or something like that.
Yeah, something like that. I'm not sure how you that's the last name.
I'm pretty sure I sent you guys the YouTube video. It's like an hour and a half long and she just breaks it down. She's talking.
I'm going to be looking for that. What's the name again?
Joy DeGraw. It's like DUGR or something. What is it? DEGRUY.
Okay.
Yeah, and basically she talks about how that trauma is passed down for generations.
Yes, I believe.
Which makes perfect sense when you really think about it.
Yes.
And I see that we're all nodding our heads in agreement, so really no need to like go too much deeper into that. Yeah. But I think also that rage is passed down. And so not only is that trauma passed down for generations, but the rage and that anger is passed down for generations. And of course, like Black men have a different experience in America, but there's a special type of rage that Black women have because Black men have their gender as a sort of privilege to fall back on in American or in society in general, because we do live in a patriarchy. That's, we can't deny that. So when it comes to men being viewed as more competent or smarter or more well put together because they don't channel decisions through their emotions and things like that, which is arguable.
Right. Totally arguable.
Right. But yeah, so like for me, reading this book, one of the biggest things that stood out to me so far is how Cooper basically says like the biggest mistake that Black feminism makes today is not teaching Black feminists that the first step to becoming Black feminists is deeply and unconditionally loving Black women. And that is just so much harder than it sounds because, like I said, we live in a patriarchy that teaches us embedded and institutionalized sexism that we may not even be aware of. We subconsciously, we have racist, everybody's a little bit racist. I think everybody's a little bit sexist because that's just how we've been indoctrinated in America. I can't, I don't know how other countries, how other people's subconscious are built in that way. And then going back, I feel like the root of this is really capitalism, because that's really the root of how like our society was built, at least in America. But Karl Marx, who is the author of the Communist Manifesto, who is one of the most well-known socialists to date, talks about this idea of, or the concept of ideology, and how ideology is built, and how basically, you know, do we think what we think because we want to, or because that's basically what this society has taught us to believe? And so I think it's really important that, we emphasize that love for Black women, and we understand what it really means to be a friend and a mother and a daughter and a granddaughter and all those things, like what that means to be, like how we can best support each other. And I think, like I said, it's difficult because we're all dealing with our own trauma to varying degrees, obviously. And we all have our struggles and our difficulties to varying degrees. And then on top of that, you know, being Black women, you know, we have to learn to be there for each other. I think that you know, when it comes to rage, y'all gonna be like, yep, snapping your fingers. But you know, when it comes to my rage, I think it manifests in like that attitude or that sassiness that Black women have. That's really how it manifests for me. And sometimes I really just can't help it. Like, I know I'm doing better. I actively recognize this in myself. I recognize it and I'm trying to do better. But as it currently stands, sometimes I just can't help myself. Sometimes my first reaction is to have an attitude. That's really just how I respond to certain microaggressions, or just to certain people in general. If I interpreted, maybe that person wasn't trying to be like malicious, but if I interpret it that way, then my armor, that wall, immediately goes up. And I feel like Black women are all too familiar with having that wall up and having that armor and having that shield. And so that's why I'm really looking forward to finishing this book and learning like how to channel that rage in healthy ways.
That's funny that you would say sometimes you just have an attitude. I know there are certain places that I go, I automatically have an attitude when I go there. I haven't done it in a long time because we've been enclosed for so long. So I really don't recall where those places are right now. And I hope that I don't remember those places. So when we do start going out, that I won't have the attitude. But there's a couple of places, and I think one is the airport. I automatically have.
Airport. I love the airport.
I love the airport too, but I always have an attitude. I believe it's the airport, and there's one other place that gives me an attitude every time I go.
Wait, you can't breathe by that. Why do you have an attitude at the airport?
I have no idea, but I think it has something to do with my perception of maybe people in the attitude that think they're better than you. I don't know. I think that's what it is. I believe that's what it is. Mm-hmm. But I'm really not really sure, but I think one of them is in the attitude in the airport. And I think I told this to you before, but like I said, since we've been enclosed for so long, I don't recall where it is. And I'm hoping that I forget that this is the place that I usually have an attitude, so I won't have one. But there's a couple of places, as soon as I walk in, I got an attitude. And it's not an attitude where I'm talking to people rude and stuff like that. It's just that my body language is so in defense. I'm ready for whatever you about to say to me, because I know you think you're better than me, and I'm getting ready to set you straight. Say it. Now, now say it, because I'm ready.
Well, so, I mean, mine is a DMV. Is that the same?
Oh, I don't know. I got attitude at except this DMV here, I got in 30, get in and out in 18 minutes one day.
That's that senior privilege right there.
Yeah, maybe it was. I don't think so, but it could have been. So that's the only time that I would use old age as when it's at my but don't call me old any other time.
No, can I skip you? My back hurting today.
Like, honey, let me get in line in front of you from this bathroom. You know I got to pee a lot. Let me cut it live. But no, so something like that. But anyway, yeah. So hey, sometimes you just come with sometimes I have that defensive already ready. Already ready. And I think another place it might be at the doctor's office. That might be that other place. Doctor's office, because there's a general distrust of the medical system anyway. That's one of the reasons that's one of the reasons that the percentage of Black people is higher when it comes to getting this vaccine. Not so much because of the Tuskegee experiment, but because of the mistrust of and the experiences of racism that people have had with doctors and the medical system. So that's one of the reasons. So so it's probably a doctor's office or the hospital or something like that. It's the other
I hope you forget about it then by the time
I'm hoping I do too. I'm hoping I do too and go and be okay.
People say like to that effect, people say, I don't know who people are. I've seen this quote, but people say like doctors are the Black women, with police officers are the Black men. So that's unfortunate, but
you're probably right. They've experimented so much on Black women. And as last night I hosted a interview with an author of medical apartheid, and one of the people that I brought out as far as experiments on Black people was, I think his name is J. Martin Sims, who experimented on Black enslaved women when they would have vaginal fistulas. He would not only would he experiment on them while they were alive, but he would experiment on them after they had died. And he wouldn't give them pain medication. He wouldn't fix that.
Joy DeGraw talks about that.
Say what?
Joy DeGraw, and she speaks about that a little bit. Yeah.
Do that. So they ended up, because it had something to do with the bladder leakage and stuff like that, they became societal outcasts because there was odor and stuff like that. But he used and practiced on them so that he could fix and heal the white women, and so they can go on about their happy lives. But he didn't do that, and became very popular and got honored for his schools. I think he came up with the specula and all that kind of stuff, which is always cold. But he came up with all that because of him experimenting on enslaved Black females. So, there's a lot of history behind us mistrusting the medical system, especially when the doctors and things like that don't look like us. Yeah.
Kennedy, can you talk a little bit about male feminists? What are your thoughts on that?
I don't have a lot of thoughts about.
Is that a thing?
Yeah, definitely.
There's some men who claim to be feminists. Yeah.
I think, given the Oxford language definition, and even given what Grammy was saying in the beginning of the talk, most people everybody should actually be in favor of equality of the sexes. Is that actually true in practice? No. But yeah, there are definitely plenty of men who identify as feminists, and I think, like, again, this is probably another conversation for another time, but this is there's often that a divide between like mainstream white feminism, because that's what feminism mostly is on the mainstream. It's usually just white women. And then there's Black feminism as well, which sometimes maybe takes the name of like womanism and things like that. And I forgot, I think it may have been Alice Walker who coined the term womanism, another Black feminist. And within, like, I've seen, like, when, how the algorithm on Instagram and TikTok is catered to what you like, right? So obviously the algorithm has picked up that, I'm into like feminist dialogue and things like that. But it often takes me to like the white side of feminism. And so I see often like white feminists may, when they're on Tinder, like the first question that they ask them is, do you identify as a feminist? That's what they're asking, like the person that they've matched with. And like I said, like I have my, I'm a little hesitant to identify as just like a feminist, given that the mainstream feminism that we see in America is just white feminism. which does not take into consideration the intersections of someone's like sexuality or their race, or being trans, you know, things like that. It's kind of just like white women being naked on the street, you know, which, you know, obviously
do whatever, I'm free. Yeah.
Yeah, burning
exactly.
bras and stuff.
Burning bras, you know.
Oh, is that what you said?
I said burning draws, but burning bras is. No, I'm just kidding. I said burning bras.
Oh, yeah.
You said girls gone wild.
And I'm not going to say that there isn't validity to that, but the way in which it is propped up in the media is not something that I often find that I identify with. And so when it comes to like men identifying as feminism, because of that, like I can understand a man not wanting to identify as a feminist. Now, when it comes to like we said, okay, just answer this, do you believe in equality of the sex? You know, obviously, like if that's your definition of feminism, or if that's the definition of feminism that we're working from, obviously the answer better be yes. You know, but oftentimes like when I couldn't even personally like, I'm not going to have more than a superficial relationship with a man if I find that he does not respect women. And that becomes pretty apparent early on in the relation, you know, in whatever relationship that is, whether it's platonic or romantic. And from that point on, I think I'm like, okay, well, yeah, you probably are a feminist. You know, like I do my own analysis of whether I think a man is a feminist. Does he necessarily have to say that? No, but I know plenty of men that do identify as feminists, like in the mainstream, and they're
That
usually,
do?
yeah, they do, and they're usually like white male celebrities. But like when you see like, man, we could talk all day about this, but like, you know, within the civil rights movement, you know, there was that issue of sexism within the civil rights movement, and then there was the issue of homophobia within the civil rights movement. And so who was at the forefront of the civil rights movement? It was Black men, but who was really doing the work behind the scenes? It was queer Black women, who are often not getting the recognition that they deserve. And even queer Black men, people like Bayard Rustin and James Baldwin. I don't think James Baldwin was out at the time, but I think Bayard Rustin was, and people like Marsha P. Johnson, which is a transgender woman, who is a transgender woman. So, yeah.
Marsha P. Johnson, the one from with the whole Stonewall. Yeah. Okay.
It was her and another, I think, a Latinx trans woman who like basically led that whole movement.
Like through the first rock or whatever.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, they've recently been getting credit for that, but saying that they haven't been given credit for it, but it was them who started this whole thing.
Yeah.
Okay. Good.
Yeah. So what about people like Sojourner Truth or you mentioned Ida B. Wells, right?
Yeah. Ida B. Wells, we talked about her a little bit I think that was actually Valentine's Day that we met and we talked about her. And because we were talking about the women's suffrage movement and who was like considered, or no, civil rights movement, who was considered like the mother of the civil rights movement or something like that.
Yeah, who was considered the mother of the civil rights movement?
Yeah.
Rosa Parks.
Oh, I think Ida B. Wells was an option for that question or something.
Oh, yeah.
And so I remember in high school when I was learning about the women's suffrage movement, and I'm grateful that my, history teacher even mentioned this because, oftentimes history likes to rewrite itself in favor of the white man and white women sometimes. But I was grateful that she mentioned this, or even that the documentary mentioned this, I should say. I think we all are familiar with, what's her name? Susan B. Anthony. I was like, maybe we're not all familiar. We all are familiar with like Susan B. Anthony and Elizabeth Cady Stanton as being like the those women at the forefront of the women's suffrage movement. But obviously, those were not the only women that were fighting for women's suffrage, and the women that were left out and who were told they couldn't even participate in that very famous women's suffrage march included Black women. And at the forefront of the Black women's suffrage movement was Ivy Wells. And so from what I remember from that documentary, she ended up going to the march anyway, but they were just like in the back.
Right.
So is that a different march from the one that Dorothy Heights kind of led, that Cali girl, you know, she kind of led the Women's March on Washington for like job equality and something else, maybe wages and stuff like that. So are these two different marches on Washington, or is there like a Black March on Washington and then this other Women's March on Washington? You know,
those are probably, I'm not going to talk out the side of my neck and say that I know for sure, but I'm almost positive those are two separate marches.
okay.
Dorothy Heights was the founder of what was it?
National Council of Negro Women.
Negro Women, yeah. Yeah, she just recently died, right? Passed away.
Oh, did Dorothy Heights just pass? Oh,
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Well, not just, but you know, within the last 2 or 3 years, I believe.
Oh.
It might have been longer than that because time has been
Right. It's like, what's today? I don't know what today is.
Yeah, like what is today? I don't know. So you know, so anyway.
What is the concept of time?
It's crazy.
So let me
What
ask
about Shirley Chisholm?
well, let me ask you this before you get into that. What do you think that Billie Holiday was a feminist? Because there is a movie coming out about her, the U.S. against Billie Holiday.
Oh,
Yeah,
like U.S. versus,
the U.S.
like it was a court case or something?
Yeah, against her because she was bringing out systemic racism. She was bringing it out to the open.
Oh, calling it what it was. Okay.
Calling it what it was. She was naming it and signing the checks. So, yeah. So I don't know a lot about her other than her being a singer.
Yeah.
But since I've heard that this movie is coming out and the title of it, I'm thinking, well, wow, she's done more than, you know, what people think. We just know the surface of, and that's on a lot of our Black leaders. They've done more or are not leaders because we don't know that they were leaders. They've done more than what we know that they've done. And that's why it's so important that not only do we have these conversations, but we should have these conversations all year, especially with our children. So they'll know.
And like you said, like there are leaders who, you know, a true leader doesn't have to have credit for work that they've done, and they can lead people into doing the things that need to be done, you know.
You're right.
Good point.
You know what you're saying. Yeah, I don't know much else about Billie Holiday aside from the fact that she was a singer as well. But what you're saying sounds a lot like, help me out here, y'all. Not Dorothy Dandridge, but the other very well-known, popular Black. She was actually like biracial, I think, but you know,
Talking about
Black performer.
That's not Billie Holiday?
No, not her, but you remember I mentioned her in my little known facts about Black people. She was the one who adopted all those children. She moved to the United States.
Hid the thing, hid the secrets in her dress or something?
Yeah, she was a spy. She hid the secrets
Yes,
and
she was a spy.
And her music. And what was
man, why am I not remembering the Black history you taught?
I don't recall. We just talked about her. I'm sure it's going to come to us at the end.
Am I thinking of Eartha Kitt? No. Or am I thinking of Josephine Baker?
Josephine Baker. That's
Josephine Baker. Okay. Eartha Kitt has an amazing story though.
Yeah.
And with that, I think that since next month is Women's History Month, I think we need to pull some stuff out of that every week. Maybe we have different topics, but we don't have to, but we do need to highlight a woman.
Women, Black women next month. That's a good idea.
I agree.
Okay.
I agree with that.
Baker is that. She did a lot of stuff.
Yeah. I was thinking, that's who I was thinking of. I was thinking of Josephine Baker because she was very, very popular and accepted in France, but she wasn't that, accepted because, the French have been known to be more like progressive as far as race than America, and gender as well. They're just known to be a little bit more progressive than the US. And so I'm thinking of her career, and what I learned about her career was that she was not one to hold her tongue about racial issues. And so when she was told that she couldn't perform somewhere, she'd be performing like, you know, small stage or somewhere in the back or something like that, or yeah, she would not hold her tongue, and she would speak out against that.
Yeah.
Didn't Jimmy Baldwin kind of he left and went to France, right? And lived in France.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know him by Jimmy.
I know. I was like,
I mean, I've read a lot of books that talk about him, and then sometimes they refer to him as Jimmy Baldwin. And I don't know if it went by that or if these people have an inside knowledge of who called him Jimmy or whatever. So James Baldwin, yeah, he moved to France for a while, right? There's the one book that I read by Eddie Cloud Jr. Was all about James Baldwin.
Eddie Cloud Jr., that's another author.
He's a professor at like maybe Princeton or something like that. It's called Begin Again. Have you heard of it?
Mm-mm.
And it's basically, yeah, he's, oh, it's gonna play it if I pull it
by
out.
who again?
Eddie Cloud Jr. And it's James Baldwin's, ooh, child. What does this say? Let me put these glasses on. I can see
Pull my glasses off because I saw none of y'all was wearing y'all's.
it says.
Your glasses are cute, by the way, Grammy.
Thank you.
Yeah, aren't they cute? I told her that last time we.
Yeah, your mom likes them too, so thank you.
Mhm. It is. I'm actually reading. That's the most recent one I've finished, and it's called Begin Again, but it's Begin Again, and it is James Baldwin's America and its urgent lessons for our own. So he leads you through James Baldwin's journey. Yeah, and so it's quite interesting. I really like that one. And then the other one I'm currently reading is Michael Dyson. Yeah, and it's called Long Time Coming, and it's very tough to read. I gotta put it down every now and again because
I think I have that on Audible and haven't listened to it yet.
Oh, you know the one? Yeah, it's just talking about all the people who've been basically
everybody.
murdered.
He
talks about everything. I think at one point he started naming names, and it just went on and on and on. He just was saying the names, and it just kept going and kept going. Yep. And I was like, 90% of these people I never heard of, but this stuff is, it's not new. Anyway.
So, now that we're at the hour mark, I do want to close out, but there are just, a few more Black feminists. Maybe we could actually save them.
For next month?
Yeah. Let me write them down, because I want to talk about Kimberly Crenshaw.
Okay.
Seems like I know her. Is she from South Central?
No, she really might be, because she teaches at UCLA.
Okay.
Yeah, I have heard of Kimberly Crenshaw. It's gonna come to me when you say her name, when you talk about her. I'll be like, oh yeah.
I want to talk about Kimberly Crenshaw. I want to talk about Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie.
I've heard of that.
Who?
Chimamanda. I'm saying it wrong. Jonathan would know how to say it, but Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. I'll learn how to say it by the time.
Oh, it's African.
Yeah, Nigerian.
Like I've heard her name. Yeah.
And we didn't talk much about Angela Davis. I feel like we have to talk about Angela Davis.
Yeah, we can't.
She needs her own spot. Yeah.
Right. So I think she's still professor emeritus there, right?
Yeah.
Every now and again, and her nephew goes there, grandson.
Her grandson, I believe. Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
If she comes up anytime after March the 15th, let me know.
That's after you got your second.
After I got my second.
Yes. Well, she's doing, I'll actually just send you the links, because she's doing like Zoom links. I mean, she's doing like Zooms and stuff like that.
Yeah.
For us.
Alana just sent us a link.
Just send us a
What'd
link.
you say, Mom?
I said, that's cool. I love the Zoom situation. You can learn a lot on Zoom and don't have to take off your pajamas.
Yeah. I know, that's right.
I had
But
a
for
Zoom.
this one, you gotta take off your pajamas. You got pajama bottoms on right now?
No, I gotta take Eric to Eric has scheduled us craft time today. So I
Okay.
had to go to Dollar Tree and he wanted me to take him so he can get some items.
Okay, that's
So I
nice.
had to
I
get on.
love that.
I know, but Friday I host this community conversation chat like for the Women's Business Center.
Mm-hmm.
And I forgot I had on my pajama top. I had on my pajamas totally, but I still had on my pajama top, which clearly was a pajama top. But I hurried up and ran and put it on, put a top on. So just getting kind of.
You're real comfortable.
I
But
was
with
real,
the button down, though,
but my pajamas were cute. Yeah, it looked like a. Do you call a pajama top a blouse?
no, you
No.
call it pajamas. You don't call it.
I call it a good old PJ top.
So yeah, it was nice, colorful, and everything. You might have been the one who gave me those pajamas for Christmas, but yeah, it buttoned down. I had my little camisole, my little black camisole up under it, all cute.
Peeking out.
Yeah, it was looking all out, and I was just sitting down, getting ready to turn on the camera. And I said, "Girl, you got on your pajama suit, so you better get up here and at least take the top off.
Pajama
And
suit.
don't have to get up for Asim, then you good."
Oh my gosh. Alana sent us a link to a YouTube video. I think they must have been at University of Texas or something like that, maybe Houston. And it was Angela Davis and Jane Elliott having a conversation. Not having a conversation, it was actually facilitated by another person. And it was really good. They really needed more time, but it was really good to see them together and how they both think.
Yeah.
I feel like it didn't, for me, I was like, it didn't get deep enough for me.
Mm-hmm.
Like I felt like the questions
were safe.
Yeah, they were very safe. And I feel like neither one of them really like dove and really delved into things as much as I wanted them to. Like everything that Jane Elliott was saying, I was like, okay, like, like I want to get a little like, say what's really on your mind. Don't play it safe.
Mm-hmm. She was trying to go there. I think she kind of got reeled back in because that professor who was facilitating, she even had to stop her. Like, we're running out of time. Let me just ask this question. And of course, whenever somebody asks, submit questions ahead of time, I'm a little skeptical because I'm like, either you notice stuff, answer off the cuff. Don't be trying to write it down and memorize something that somebody wrote for you or to be politically correct. Like, I don't like when they do that work all the time.
I was on
type questions in the chat and ask it right now.
Right now, I was at a breakfast Zoom for I want to say Texas A&M for Martin Luther King weekend, and Jane Elliott spoke, and she got questions out of the audience, I believe.
That's
she was kind of coming through. She was kind of coming through,
Yeah.
With some of the questions, and so she even put the facilitator on blast for a minute because he didn't know some of the things that she had mentioned. So
like what?
I don't know. She asked him something about Black history or something, and he didn't have that answer right there.
Was he Black?
Yeah.
So okay, well, don't be
he the Black history?
Not even know Black people just because they don't know every single Black.
Right. No,
like
especially if she's been studying it for years. Yeah.
Yeah, you want to study Black history and Black
my degree's in economics, but
right, you're like, my degree is in public administration.
Yeah, partially, and he came back. He saved himself.
Oh,
but, yeah, she still just thought he should have known that. Maybe she thought he should have known it because he should have heard her say it many times. But
maybe that too.
Right. Well, yes. So we are going to, so as Mom mentioned, the month of March is Women's History Month. And so we're going to table a few excellent Black feminists and just Black women in general for March. And some people that I'd like to talk about are Kimberly Crenshaw, Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie, and my apologies if I mispronounced that, and Angela Davis. And I'm sure my mom and my Grammy have some people that they'd like to talk about as well. So with that being said, thank you all for a wonderful discussion today. I really enjoyed it. This is probably one of my favorites that we've done so far.
I can Yeah, you're very passionate about it and knowledgeable. You can't be passionate and not know what the hell you're talking about.
Exactly.
So bam.
Thank y'all.
Thank you for facilitating. It was great. Love you.
Love
Okay,
you.
y'all have a good day.
You too, Mom. Bye.
You too.